What up? My name is Brad. Welcome back to 5-9 Gaming. Today, we're jumping in for a very long series. Debating on how long it's going to be. We're going to say about probably 30 episodes, give or take. We're starting with red, blue, and yellow, and I'm going to cover every single Pokemon game because I'm what you would call a person with a problem when it comes to Pokemon. I am most definitely a person with a problem. But red, blue, and yellow is the start of it because obviously it kicked off literally the biggest franchise that's ever existed. Nothing even comes close. And for the most part, I'm only going to cover yellow. For the most part. I'll touch on a couple things here and there from red, blue, maybe a little bit of green. We'll talk about some stuff, but for the most part, realistically, it's just going to be yellow. You can follow 5-9 Gaming over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We got everything. Good luck on the Facebook one, but on Twitter at 5-9 Gaming. Give us a follow over there. It's greatly appreciated. If you want to follow just me, my name is Bradical YT. You're more than welcome to. That rhymed very nicely. Let's get in. Let's talk about Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Now, it may not seem like it nowadays if you're of the younger generation. Probably Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow specifically don't seem that groundbreaking. Back in the 90s, during the Pokemon craze, as somebody who experienced it firsthand, I remember it was my 5th birthday. I was at Peter Piper Pizza, and my least favorite uncle, well, shout out to Brian, it's all right, got me a copy of Pokemon Red. Had no idea what it was. My mom got me a Game Boy, and I went from there. My sister always had consoles and stuff. She had the NES. I had the N64, so on and so forth. But I got a copy of Pokemon Red in 1997. 98, just kidding. I'm not quite that old yet. 1998. So I think about a year after it had come out, I think the anime was either just about to come out or it just had, and that's how I got into it. But I remember very distinctly playing Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Red specifically, but then obviously when Yellow came out. They're classic. I mean, there's no way to say it. They're a bit tough to play in the year 2023. They've been a bit tough to play since about 2012, honestly. That's about when emulation became a thing. And at that point, I could go back and revisit it. I do highly recommend you go back and play these older games if you never have. They're worth your time, but that doesn't make them necessarily amazing. But for when they came out, honestly, fantastic on so many levels. There's such a simple concept. You just catch a Pokemon, these little mystical creatures that nobody at that time really knew about. And it was just, everything was different, obviously. There was no internet. I mean, there was, but it was like you just sent emails and that was about it. You look at an image and it take you 5 minutes for the image to load. So there wasn't a lot of information about Pokemon out there. And everything was new. Just simple. Back then, the designs for me when it comes to Generation 1, I don't want to say that they're bad. But because obviously I love them. But some of them are kind of bad. I love them and it's fine. Like coughing and wheezing. The names will always make me laugh to this day. But it doesn't make them good designs. They're some of my favorites. I absolutely love Coughing. I love him so much. He's just adorable. Wheezing's amazing too. They're great. Muck. Voltorb is just a Pokeball. The designs are so cheesy. And they're definitely baked in a lot of nostalgia. And I totally understand if people nowadays genuinely don't like them. But at that time, man, there was nothing like it. There was nothing like it, even remotely. Pokemon stood out like a sore thumb, and it did it fantastically. With all that stuff said about the designs, there's a lot of Pokemon that I specifically chose to be on the thumbnail. I mean, Mewtwo is an ageless design. There's no argument there. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, they're all fantastic. Dragonite is amazing to this day. Everything, but again, you have your stinkers, but it's like, even the stinkers are amazing because nostalgia, man, they're just awesome. It's just how it is. It's a little annoying when you talk to people that are like, well, I stopped playing after Red, Blue, and Yellow. Everything else was trash. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's a little bit hard to really, truthfully take people serious when their only interaction with Pokemon has been Red, Blue, and Yellow. And it's like, I don't even know how to approach this topic and tell you how much else exists beyond this. If you guys ever want, you're more than welcome to watch me and Gresh's playthrough on this channel of Pokemon Red randomized. Well, Red and Blue randomized. One of the funniest playthroughs. I'll link it down in the description down below, but highly, highly recommend you watch that. It's just a good time overall. With that said, Gresh is one of those people that up till about Crystal, and then he fell off, and that's like all he ever talks about is, yep, nothing else compares. Got him into Legends Arceus, and he was a pretty big fan of that. But we'll talk about Legends Arceus way down the road in this series. That's my personal favorite Pokemon game now. One thing that a lot of people nowadays don't talk about, maybe because a lot of people don't really know about it. So I got into Pokemon YouTube, quote unquote. I'm definitely not a Poke-tuber, and I don't really ever plan to be either. But I got into watching Pokemon content from watching theories and watching old video type stuff. Pokegods is something that a lot of people nowadays probably don't know. And it was a schoolyard rumor when I was a kid even. I had heard it like maybe one time when you had Pika-Blue. I think Doomsday, obviously Missing No is just iconic at this point. Missing No is quite literally iconic at this point. But you have these things called Pokegods that were supposedly behind Bill's house up above Cerulean City. And then if you got to the grass on the side of Pallet Town, you either found Pokegods or you could catch other starters. That is genuine stuff that people said and did. Obviously, you had Mew in the truck. Everybody knows that one. I don't have to go over that. But Pokegods weren't super prevalent. I grew up in Vegas, for anybody wondering. And it really wasn't that prevalent in my schoolyard, people talking about Pokegods. I'd heard of them. I knew what they were. But it wasn't something people brought up to me on like a regular basis, right? It was just like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. And then as I got older, come to find out, a lot of people had seen these things called Pokegods around early internet at that time. And they became hyper popular. I am definitely one of those guys that when I got access to an emulator, I put cheats on it, walked behind Bill's house, walked on the side of Pallet Town. Bummer, there's nothing there. It's how it is. I do kind of wish that they had snuck in like you catch starters around Pallet Town. That would have been kind of cool, but it is what it is. Obviously, Mew being under the truck was never actually there. The way that you get Mew is you skip a couple of very specific trainers above Cerulean. You have to like not battle specific trainers. Get into a battle and fly instantly, walk into Lavertown, boom, you'll get a Mew. Again, in that Pokemon Red and Blue playthrough, we did that. So if you want to check it out, you're more than welcome to watch it. The AI in Generation 1 is absolute, unequivocal trash. There's no way around it. You'll have Blaine, who's using potions and super potions as the 7th gym leader. You'll have the Elite Four. The Rhydon has like Fury Attack as his one attack. They're absolutely terrible. And they have a thing called Smart AI, which is ironic because it's not very smart. Let's say hypothetically, you go into a battle against Dragonite with like a Primeape or something. A fighting type. Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, doesn't matter. You go and you fight that Dragonite. It will constantly... I think it's Dragonite. Whatever Pokemon. We'll use Dugong because I know it gets Reflect or Barrier. It'll constantly use a move even if it doesn't attack because it's technically speaking super effective. Because it's got smart AI. It is the most cheesable thing ever. And I actually love it. The games are so incredibly broken. Like, the title of this video is Broken Building Blocks. For a reason. Because the games are so broken. Even to this day. They're held together with duct tape. Everybody makes the same jokes. But it almost has made them more iconic. That they're actually trash. And they're so amazing. It's made them, at least to me, more iconic. Obviously, you can ask other people their opinions and whatnot, but to me, 100%. So there's not much to original Pokemon, like Red, Blue, and Yellow. They're really not that long of a game. If you're trying to, you can probably clean through them in an hour and a half. If you're really just trying to get through it and you know exactly where to go and what to do. So there's not a whole lot to talk about. Some of the games moving forward, there's going to be a lot to talk about. But when it comes to this, we'll talk about the rival, and then I'll give you guys my score, and so on and so forth. Blue/Gary. He's actually probably one of my favorite rivals. He actually might be my favorite rival, to be honest with you. He's just such a dick. But it's like the perfect level of being a dick that when you beat him, you're like, yeah, dude, get wrecked. Nice. Nice, dude. And you destroy, and it's a really good feeling. It's a good, wholesome, quote-unquote, feeling. When you just body him, and then his own grandpa shows up and says, man, you suck. It's just, I love it to this day. It'll never not make me laugh. Truthfully, never not make me laugh. So when it comes to Pokemon, Red, Blue, and Yellow, again, more Yellow specifically, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Now, that's half nostalgia. That's half the games being like the building blocks of such an amazing franchise that I kind of like a little bit. A solid 8 out of 10. You could probably go 8.5. The only reason I give it 8 out of 10 because a couple years ago when I played through Yellow, I genuinely forgot how slow the games are. You can't run. There's no running. Now, with emulation, that's solved. You can go like 300% speed, 400, 500% speed, doesn't matter. But back in the day, you couldn't. And I wanted to play through the games authentically. Plugged into the bottom of my GameCube, popped in that disc to play the Game Boy. Went from there, and man, it's pretty slow. Now, if you knew about Pokemon Stadium, or Stadium 2 it might be, where you had the Dodrio pack, where when you beat Pokemon Stadium 2, you could then play the games at like ×3 speed. I didn't know about that as a kid. I wasn't smart enough to hook that up. I wasn't aware. That would have been so amazing. The first time I ever played a Pokemon game on my TV was Ruby and Sapphire. Whenever I got the GameCube that had the little snap on the bottom thing, when XD came out, that was when I played Pokemon on my TV, and that was breathtaking. I can't even imagine being like 6 years old, playing Pokemon on a big screen. Well, big screens back then were a lot different, but on a big screen at ×3 speed would have been amazing. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, solid 8 out of 10. I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you, but if you enjoy this style of content, make sure you leave a like, subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. I know it's a bit rapid fire, but that's kind of just how I like to make videos. So if you enjoy that, and it's a little bit more pleasing to you, leave a like, sub to the channel, follow us on Twitter. I'll catch you around. Deuces.